Clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill. I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Larry.
And I'm Lamont.
Of course, I'm wrong.
And just in case you guys haven't noticed, Larry and Lamont, they are very great YouTubers here. They are fellow Black content creators. And Tiffany and Ron were previously featured on their platform. And so today they are joining us over here on ours. And we are so happy to have them.
Yeah.
Great guest. Great guest.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We hope you feel the same exact way when we leave. That's what we hope.
I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will.
Certain.
There might be fumes coming up in the air. We might stink the place up, you know?
So
I doubt that. They, as you can see, they bring the funny. They are very personable, and I'm sure they'll fit right in here with us at the Spot Real Talk.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a lively discussion.
Exactly. And today LaWanda is out, but she'll be joining us soon, hopefully next week. And so we have Lamont and Larry here keeping her seat warm for her as we come in, and we're going to discuss the Shy this week.
Woo.
Look, Ron happy because he got some backup, got some
oh
brothers on the
yeah,
panel.
I got a lot to say this week, and I got brothers with me, so you know what? It's
Man.
gonna be on now.
I have all kinds of feelings about this week. I have all kinds of feelings, from the propaganda to the whole after school special vibe to, you know.
Well, look, we're
Let's
gonna
get
get
it.
started.
My son said that.
Oh, there you go. See, great minds think alike.
Exactly.
So Tiara, we're gonna get started in 2 and 2.
Yes, if you guys hang tight, we'll be right back with you.
Louisiana where the last one burned you. Know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him. Swear that's the truth. So you can't trust that alone.
Okay, everyone, we are back. Like I said, we are talking The Shy. This is season 4. This is going to be episode 2. I'm sorry, season 4, episode 2, titled season 4, episode 3. I'm
There we
sorry.
go.
Excuse me. I'm a little jumbled up today, but this one was titled Native Son. So I know you guys might have had some thoughts about this week. We've previously mentioned some things. I know we had a lot of predictions from last week that definitely came true. If you want to kick it off with that, I mean, we love talking about Emmett and his situation because it's just such a hot mess.
Well, you know, I like to start with that zinger that Tiff put on Emmett. You know, okay, it's one thing to say to Emmett, yeah, I'm screwing Dante. And you know, Emmett didn't like Dante from jump. And so now she tells him that not only is she screwing him, he's giving her better, you know what. Now, in my opinion, that's low. That was a blow that just did not have to happen. That was a very low blow. It was already, it was already, you know, noted that she was, you know, doing Dante. And of course, Emmett didn't want that at all, but she went lower. I mean, she just went vicious with that blow.
Oh, she wanted him to hurt as much as she did.
Burn.
Yeah, she wanted him to hurt as much as he did.
Yeah, and Emmett needs to leave because of that. He needs to leave.
See how big the double standards? Like he keeps cheating first.
Emmett should have never married her in the first place.
Well, that's true too, but this is the reason why it's not a double standard. And I've said this before, when Emmett has cheated in the past, he's done it because of his own weaknesses, whether they be character weaknesses, male weaknesses. Tiff did it specifically to hurt him. And she's still doing it to hurt him. She even said when he asked her, did he pull out, we don't want to have another kid and don't know who the baby is, she came out and said, yeah, I came twice, he came twice, hurt, doesn't it? She's intentionally trying to inflict pain on him
because he has repeatedly inflicted pain on her.
But
and I'm not saying Tiff is right. Two wrongs don't make it right. Two wrongs don't make it right.
But intent is everything.
But like
and
I always
intending to hurt him.
And just like I was saying earlier during the show with my wife, it's one thing to go out and hurt him by, you know, screwing Dante, because we already know he didn't want her with Dante to begin with. But when you do that, but when you say
felt the way about any man.
But no, it's not just no, that's not necessarily, because he already had some misgivings about Dante to begin with. But when you then go back and say he was better than you for a man, okay, that infuriates him. So now you about to kick up some dirt you might not be able to handle. I mean, like,
is there any credence to the fact that because he was trying to clean the slate of being married, that he told her that, look, I did this before we got married, and it's weighing on me, and I want you to know. And can we at least talk about where the hell is the communication with any of these adults in the Chi? Not just them. Don't nobody know how to communicate in the Chi. Where's the communication at?
I feel the same way.
People start talking about stuff, and before they can either verbally execute what's on their mind, walking out the building, or the other person just don't understand how to listen. And this was not just
communicate. They know how to communicate, Lamont. We talked about this. If you are a black male or a straight female, then you don't know how to communicate. But if you're gay on the show, you have excellent communication skills. Excellent, because all the LGBT community people on this show seem to be the only decent acting individuals. All the black men or the straight women seem to be just dumb and lack of communication skills.
What you saying, Larry, is you blaming this on Lena Waithe.
Absolutely. This show, I started watching this show because I thought it was gonna be a good show about black people, and this show has devolved into nothing more than propaganda. I mean, think about that scene. Think about the contrast of the messages we're seeing in this episode. We end up with this nice intact family unit with Kevin and Keisha and her mom and what's her name sitting around the dinner table with this nice nuclear family with the butch lesbian chick at the head of the table. And then what do we have with all the straight folks? We have the mayor up there having sex with some other woman in his house.
Yeah, but the wife is in on that though.
And then the wife walks in, and so they're about to blend that into some bisexual threesome tale. And then you have Emmett's marriage that's just falling apart, another straight marriage being destroyed.
It's about to become a threesome over there too.
I don't know if it's gonna be a threesome. I doubt that's gonna be a threesome. It's just every time they're showing the representations of straight families in this, it's all about some BS-ery, and then the gay folks get it looking good. Look at Trig and his woman; they're all communicating nicely and talking through stuff. Even when they're upset with each other, they're still communicating and letting each other know why they're upset and how to fix it. Come on.
But you know what though? The family thing, I had to push back on that with Dre and Nina. There's going to be trouble with them too, because the fact that Jada asked her to keep that secret about the cancer diagnosis, she did not. Now she got Dre keeping secrets from Nina. Nina's going to think she's cheating because now she lied to her about where she's going, but really she was just going to support a friend. So there's this trust there. Why is that big issue?
And why did she lie?
Even in that,
there was really no point for her to lie, because Jada is friends with Nina. I don't even understand what was the point in lying in that situation. And Dre did say, I can't keep lying because she's gonna find out sooner or later. But having said that, she's trying to hide it from Nina because Nina is just like Emmett's daddy. She couldn't hold water if it was to sink in your bathroom.
She runs her mouth. That's
I think the point of it is that Jada is trying to keep it from getting to Emmett ultimately.
Which is bad communication.
But she's keeping a secret. And this is the other thing they show with this. She's keeping a secret. And she's keeping the most altruistic secret that you can. Oh, our friend has cancer, and I'm trying to protect you from it and keep her secret. It's not like she's keeping a secret that she's sleeping around or doing drugs or robbed a bank. She's keeping a secret that she's helping her friend go to chemo.
It don't matter. Some people judge secrets that they are all the same weight, no matter what.
Some people do, but it still matters. If someone's keeping a secret like that because they're like, well, I wanted to keep it private because it's cancer. I didn't want everyone to worry. I didn't know what the stage was yet. Yada yada yada. there's a big difference in levels of secrets.
But Jada did want to say something to Emmett. Remember when Emmett popped in on her and, she was trying to talk with him, but Emmett didn't want, he didn't want to hear it because she was with his high school buddy. And so he was more upset with that.
The other thing.
Yeah, and he was more upset with that than anything else. And yeah, I agree. Now, I got issues, but hey.
This is a beautiful Black woman built like a brick house. And you're telling me the only way she's going to get a man is to pay a sex worker?
Well, she ain't paying him no more.
She not paying him no more.
So she's going to marry the hoe.
She might.
She's going to turn the hoe into a housewife.
That's what she's trying to do.
And she's not built like a brick house. She is a brick house.
Yeah, she'll brick.
And I'm saying, I feel the same way. She can do a lot better. And I don't know if I said that before, I believe, but she can do a lot better than that brother. And it's just, it's these settlements that I see. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It makes sense when you consider who created this show and who's behind it.
Well,
and the masseuse made himself convenient. But
I think that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention about Jada. I think that she's just in a point in her life where she's had it like enough bad experiences where she's like, okay, I'm going to see past the age difference. I'm going to see past all of the things that say we shouldn't be together. And I'm just going to go for what makes me happy.
Just being open.
I'm sorry, I have to push back on this. She took a recommendation of a sex worker from her son's girlfriend.
Right.
We're not gonna unpack that. We're just gonna leave that there.
Which I have absolutely no problem with it, as long as he can keep the things between them two, which he seems like he's trying to do. I ain't got no problem with it. I mean, hell, other people have been doing it for years. They'll trade in one person for a 30-year-old, and then they'll trade them back in. I ain't got no problem with Jada, as long as she realized that the baggage he's holding, you got to be able to accept some of that baggage if y'all going to be out on a night and another one of his chicks that he done gave a wet happy ending to pops up saying, hey, how you doing? You can't get mad at him.
And that happened last
at the reunion.
That's right. That happened last week at the reunion.
Yeah.
And Nina popping up on the brother asking him where is he going with Jada. And I mentioned last week, that's not Nina's position. Jada has to understand he's a very, very young man, and he may not even know what real love is at this point in time, and not to mention his career choice. So, Jada has to be more worried about what she has than anyone else in this show. And it just seems like it seems like she's been lulled to sleep with this dude, and I don't know why. I mean, because as we've said, she can do better.
I think she's just enjoying herself. And now she has a cancer diagnosis. So who knows that he'll even be around for that? Because if it's as aggressive as they say, I mean, who knows? She may have to get a mastectomy, this bodily changes, things like that. So who knows that they're in there for the long haul anyway? I think right now she's just enjoying herself.
Right. Yep. So is that who you want to be with? Is a sex worker who's too young and immature to know what's what, and now you have to worry: is this dude still going to want to be with me when you come home and you have one breast?
Well, he found a lump, and he was extremely concerned about her going to the doctor, getting it checked out.
Right, but there's a big difference.
Trying to plant the seed of, maybe this is his pivoting point. Maybe I don't know what it is about her that might be changing him, but everybody has a point in their life where sometimes things or people help change them for the better. Maybe she's the one.
And hopefully that's true. I mean, that's true. I mean, Imani changed Trig. I mean, when you stop to look at it, she made Trig a more thoughtful thug, if you will.
That's because Imani is really the thug in that relationship. She just able to keep it under makeup and hair. Imani be going hard.
I don't even know who rating on those two. I mean, Trig is nothing more than a sociopath, in the closet gay dude that's just needs to work his issues out. This dude's running around talking about, I'm not gay. You are gay. You are a member of the LGBT community. Deal with it and stop killing people and then going home and having dinner.
I think that's what this season is going to be focused around, because we had a prediction last week about this shot. character. And so I really think that that's his purpose in this show, is to force Trig to confront his sexual identity and just who he is as a person. Because Shad is like the rough and rough around the edges kind of version of Trig and how he was in his former life. And then Imani, like you said, is kind of like tapping into his sensibilities and his sensual side and trying to, you know, tone him down a little bit. But then those areas clash when you put them under the same roof. And we're already seeing that with this Shad character coming in and causing disruptions with Jake. Jake is starting to act out.
Yeah,
so I think that that's what this season, I think that's what his purpose is in this season, to help Trig realize that regardless of what he wants to see himself as, he has to look in the mirror and see himself the way other people are going to see him.
Part of the problem with Shad is, and it was funny, Shad thought Imani was a born female. And when he was having that discussion with homeboy that pulled the gun on Kevin last season, he had to realize, oh, I was thinking about how fine this woman was. She's not a woman. So ultimately, what's going to wind up happening, in my opinion, we talked about this on our show, Life Games, he might do something very greasy to her, get mad and rape her, because deep down on the inside, he's closet gay himself, and he's having a hard time realizing. I just seen the look on his face today on the show that tells me everything I need to know about him. He is going to be a problem. He's going to put his hands on Imani, and it's not going to end well for somebody in that house.
Well, I agree.
No.
I gave him a pass.
And I think
he's been in jail for a minute, so you know maybe it was hard for him to to distinguish what a woman really looks like these days. So I gave him a quick pass, but I agree with you. He's going to do something stupid, and it's not going to end well at all.
And I was going to tap into that exact point, Ron, because I think there's a bigger conversation there possibly about men that have been incarcerated, and then like certain activities, I guess some people deem acceptable behind bars, but when you come back into the real world, it's like you don't know who you are anymore. And if certain things that you might have done in jail could be a conflict with who you appear on the streets. So I'm wondering if that's another issue that's going to come up this season with men who, you know, that toxic masculinity sometimes comes out when they don't want to face some of the things that they've done and how that makes them identify.
What is toxic masculinity? Because I think that's just called masculinity.
I agree,
I mean,
I was actually,
people try and make it seem like it's toxic, but the reality is that men have been this way throughout time, throughout history. It's not toxic. It is what masculinity is. It's just don't like it, but it's not toxic.
Well, I don't think it's about what other people like or not. I think it's about what the person themselves they feel within themselves, because it becomes toxic when you want it to be a certain way, but you're not willing to realize what it really is. Like it's almost like you're in denial about something, and that's when it becomes toxic. Is because you're trying to overcompensate for something that you already know is within you.
well,
You're trying to block it out and tune out this whatever it is.
Well, one of the problems is sexual proclivity over his manhood. That because he has a sexual preference doesn't make him any less of a man.
Right.
You know, and so I think that's where we need to draw the line. And the problem is that line keeps getting blurred because we tend to relate a man's masculinity with his sexual proclivity. And that's not, and I think that's where the problem lies here with Trig. You know, Trig still has a, you know, he's a man. He has his way. But, you know, he prefers Imani. Does that make him less of a man? I don't think so.
No. And I think that what really people really mean when they say toxic masculinity or toxic femininity is any behavior that you portray that causes you to put someone in harm, your family in harm, or someone in danger. That would be toxic. All the other stuff is not toxic, one bit. I mean, a man, you're going to try to holler at a woman, you might whistle at her. I've heard people call that toxic masculinity. As long as that whistling doesn't put you in danger or harm, there's nothing toxic about that behavior. But so the behavior have you cornered somewhere and you can't get away from him doing that, then I would consider that toxic masculinity.
So what if you say, I'm a man, it is my job to be a protector. I'm signing up, I'm going to the Marines, and then you get shipped off to war. Is that toxic masculinity?
No. You decided to go.
No.
I think that's just somebody being overly masculine.
But you put your family,
or if
everybody
they
else
feel
in
like
danger. You put your family, yourself, everyone's in danger now.
I think you can have a toxic characteristic. I think you can have toxic decisions. I think I think you can have all those things, but it doesn't make the person necessarily toxic. As a family member, you got a family. I have to decide whether or not I want to go to war, possibly lose my life, and then not be there for my family. My decision might have been toxic, but I had a reason for doing what
I mean, I think that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So,
I
let me ask you, does
that
Imani,
analogy you just made, Larry, is not all that valid, because in essence, a Black person getting in his car, riding and getting stopped by the police would be considered toxic masculinity, because we see what the police are doing to people every day. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when someone performs an act that puts someone in danger. I didn't say just because you get in your car, you go sign up for the military and your family's in harm, that's toxic masculinity. You can't define it that way.
Okay.
When you yourself viciously do something based on what we define as traditional norms for a man, and that harms someone, is what I'm saying is what people are calling toxic masculinity. No, I mean, if I go get in my car right now and I get stopped by the police, my family's in danger because I might not come home. That's not toxic masculinity. That's being Black.
So let me ask you this. So when Imani gets in the car and drives Trig to some place and she's telling him, you're the man, go take care of this, and she drives him to a place and he goes and kills somebody, is that toxic femininity with her gassing him up, telling him you need to be a man and take care of this?
No, those are again toxic decisions. She made a decision that can ultimately harm or kill Trig. That doesn't
but she's using her femininity to appeal to his masculinity, saying you're the man, you need to take care of this. So at what point does it become gender-specific toxicity?
Well, actually, she's appealing to her feminine identity because she identifies herself as being a woman. So, I don't take that away from him or her or whatever you call them. But, I still say it's the decision that's toxic, not necessarily the individual that made the decision. So because we all have had maybe in our lives at some point a toxic decision that that cost us something, but it doesn't have to define you as the person.
So was Tracy, and I'm so mad with Tracy.
Oh Lord.
Lord have mercy, I'm so mad with Tracy.
Well, and listen, I was mad with Tracy last season. So
me and Larry,
she's just coming a mile away.
Man, we destroyed her on the first episode, because here's a woman who has fallen for the bad boy because all she's been able to get is lower tier bad boys. So now she's got a bad boy that's got money and all this and that, and a wife that's willing to let her join them in a threesome, and she's being seduced by it. And this is not going to end well from her. As a matter of fact, I do believe she's in the runnings for someone that's going to wind up shooting Douda at the end of this season. And, when she walked in that room and he was like, I'm going to go have a nightcap, and he didn't say nothing else, she volunteered, can I join? I said, damn.
Sure did.
Yeah.
I said, damn, Lord. Tracy,
if you're a man, you need to stay away from Tracy. She's like a Black Widow. All the men around her die violently.
Well, remember now, last week his assistant said the same thing. This week he said, his assistant said to Douda, you need to be careful.
Be careful with that.
Exactly. And so he already.
And that was Gemma's daddy. That's
Gemma's daddy.
Financial advisor for his campaign.
I did have a problem with that because I didn't really like the way he objectified her in that statement. He could have put a her. He didn't have to say a that. He made her as like he dehumanized. You need to be careful with that. I don't like that kind of language because it kind of makes people, it takes all the person out of them. Mm-hmm. It's like she's just an object that over there you need to, it's like saying don't play with that gun,
Do you
don't
expect better?
Tractor.
You expect
that is
better
dangerous.
From
She's a
daddy?
human being.
You expected better from Gemma's daddy?
I did from Gemma's father. Of course I did.
I didn't. Not with politics. I didn't.
I think they all have an agenda. And we talked about this last week. As long as Otis, he's not willing to play by what Rosalind and Gemma's father want him to do, I think he's going to continue to rub them the wrong way. And it's any decision, but especially with the Tracy situation, because I think Tracy, she has a reputation in the neighborhood, possibly because people might be seeing her the way that you guys just mentioned. I mean, her dating Ronnie last season. I think that, you know, some of the actions around that could have left a sour taste in people's mouth. And so with her doing this community work, I think she's trying to redeem herself, but she tarnishes her images again by not staying by her community work and getting rolling in the mud with Otis. I think that that's going to be like, that's going to ruin her if the community finds out.
Well, he has a new job, so that's what we're calling him Otis.
Right, Mayor Douda.
We're not gonna call him.
I mean, that's his name.
That's back and forth between calling him Otis and Douda.
Yeah, we go back and forth. Otis, Douda.
But here's the thing: Tracy underwear got super wet when he said $5 million.
Yes,
but
indeed.
the problem that y'all gonna run into is now that the police has said, okay, you don't want us, we're out. And Tracy and Trig and them are trying to do their own, they're basically trying to be community justice. I hate to say this, and I'm going to use a bad language here. You got pro-Black folks who want to do it, then you got niggas in the room with it. What's going to wind up happening is those ones that want to be leaders that shouldn't be leaders going to try to be leaders, mess that up, and at the end of the day, the community is going to be more wrecked. But really and truly, if you want to get the police to do their damn job, all you got to do is go on the white, rich side of town of Chicago, start tearing shit up, and the police will be begged back one way or the other. That's all you got to do.
But you have to be careful with this. We're going to do. I mean, community, intervention is important, but you have to be careful because this is, and not in this country, but in third world countries, this is how warlords are created.
Exactly.
You have regions that don't have any governmental policing. And so you have people that step in to fill that role, and next thing you know, they utilize all that power to control you, and they end up becoming warlords.
It's called street justice.
But we have that here.
Street justice.
Yeah, you do to some extent with the gangs and such. You do.
I mean, with the militia. I mean, the very people that attacked our legislators in January 6th, they did exactly what you're talking about. And but it's ironic how this country was so willing to break down the Black Panther movement that had really nothing to do with trying to overturn government. It was just trying to uplift our own Black people. And they were very quick to destroy that. But nobody's doing anything about this militia that will be used. If there is a civil war, I can guarantee you the militia will be public enemy number one.
I mean, they are now.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the FBI done called them out and said that they are now. It's just that certain ears are deaf to it because the message is not getting to them.
Yeah. And I appreciated what Trig and Tracy were trying to do because they had really good intentions. Right. And I think that's a good start. But I mean, you could already see the community complaining about, well, when do we get our free time back? Do we have to keep doing this? And so it's like, it really is a commitment. If you're going to go up that avenue, you got to make sure that you have people that are committed to the cause and people that have not been trained to deal with domestic situations.
I was going to say that.
I mean, yeah, the situation with Vic Mensa, he was featured on the show, and his girlfriend having that domestic dispute. If you were not trained and all you know is conflict and no conflict resolution, you could easily go up in that situation and make it 1,000 times worse. Thank God Tracy and Trig knew how to, calm the situation down. But who's to say, like you were saying, some other members of the community might not have known how to handle that situation. And so it does become a very fine line.
I have a problem with Trig doing this. They could have found another male on this show. They could have offered Emmett an outlet for all of his grief and said, hey, why don't you come work with us? Take your mind off things, had him out there doing this. You could have brought in, Papa's dad to go and do this. You could have had somebody else. And instead, what they're trying to tell us with their propaganda is that we need to have a sociopathically violent, murderous, closeted homosexual man that's going to be the savior of the Black community. That is absolute BS. That is not the person that you need to promote as the savior of the Black community.
Maybe he's trying to turn turn a leaf.
But he's not. He's still out there selling drugs. He's still out there doing the same criminal behavior that he has no intentions on stopping.
If I've seen it that way, I think that they're trying to show some duality in these characters.
Right.
That just because you identify a certain way or if you are involved in certain activities doesn't mean that you're monolithic in that sense. Like everybody has dimensions to them. And I think that that's what the show is trying to portray. Like, sure, he may be having issues with his sexual identity. Sure, he may have been involved in street life and the drugs and criminal activity. But I think that what we're starting to see is that, especially as things go around you in your community that bother you as much as police violence, like that can spark a change in someone to say, you know what, regardless of how you view me or how I view myself, like I'm going to take a stand and do something in my community because I'm tired of seeing this.
And it hit close to home. It happened to his little brother. So, I mean, if something like that does hit close to home, it can spark a change in you or a call to action. And I think that's what he's doing.
What I like to see, what I like to see in this show is some rationality. In other words, you're now the mayor, Douda. And yes, I understand what it is you're trying to do. You know, you're trying to clean up your community. You're trying to hold police responsible, but you just can't go out free willy and just say, we're going to be our own community force. It doesn't happen that way. I would like for him to have taken some time to consider the positives and negatives, try to draw up some sort of plan, like Tracy did say, and Trig.
No, Rob said that.
Everybody said it to him.
Everybody said it because they were trying to say it takes a plan. You just can't take common people and say, hey, go ahead and defend your community. Now, one way of defending the community is this, don't see, don't tell type of thing that happens in our communities all the time. But it happens in all other communities. And I did like what Trig said. There's civil wars going on in all cultures. And why should ours be any different?
I'm sorry, Ron.
No.
So, Ron, I think the issue here is what you're saying is absolutely right. But what we can't forget is Douda is still a drug dealer. And him forming these alliances with the people is going to have more soldiers that are going to be ingratiated to him if and when he gets into some turmoil on this show before he gets shot with his drug game. And so what you're saying would be right if it was a different guy in the office. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying when you think about Douda's motivations, he's already a drug dealer, and trying to get these people to organize in a manner he's doing only leads to taking heat off his drug business, is how I see what he's doing as a backdoor way to also show support to the people that are hurting.
And I want to point out, when I talk about Trig, it's not about who he is as far as being gay. My problem with him is that if they're presenting him as like this upright leader who's supposed to guide the Black community to safety, and this is a dude who's violent and he sells poison to the community, and he's not even honest with himself about who he is. You bring that person to me and say, follow him. I'm going to say, there's no way in hell I'm following this dude. But they're trying to convince us that that is the type of person as Black people we should be following. And the reality of it is, we like it or not, when these young men and women today watch these shows, they are taking they're taking this and they're listening to it and watching it, and they're being guided by it, and they're looking at this and say, oh, this is the person I should be looking to. This is the type of person that I should be okay with following. These are the people that I should look to as my leaders. And if we don't present good images of Black people, I'm not saying that you can't have shows with complex characters. There's a place for the show in Trig, with Trig in it, but he doesn't need to be the one that's trying to lead the Black community.
It could be good if they really turn him around and take this pivoting point and make his character one that gets on the up and up. I could see it being a good.
Yeah, but they needed to reform him first.
Hold on, Larry, because right now, the way they're writing his character, he's doing no different from Bumpy Johnson, and we're all rooting for Bumpy Johnson. It's just that Trig is a younger, maybe not as savvy, not the boss that Bumpy Johnson is, but if they can take this character and write him to do right, maybe that can be a leading point for people to do better.
Exactly. Bumpy's doing the same thing.
I agree with you too, Lamont, except that with Bumpy Johnson, he's a planner. I mean, he does nothing without planning first. And
he's also older. And
well, he is older. Well, and I think you
fine,
can be
too.
young. I think you can be young and still have that kind of mentality. And that's what I would like to see from the shot. I like to see Trig come up a step or two, understanding now the role and the reality of things in his community. I like to see him step up and be more of a planner. But I think that's
Now here's the thing too here's the difference between Bumpy Johnson and Trig and any of the rest of these criminals in here. First of all, back in the day, they had rules to the game that they kept. They played by those rules. And if you broke those rules, people inside the game would take you out. They didn't go around killing civilians. They didn't go around when they wanted to kill you. They just didn't go spray an entire city block and then kill 19 kids and old ladies and never hit the person that they're aiming for. They didn't do that.
right.
They planned stuff. They found you when you were on your way to the drugstore, walking home from picking up your grandmother's groceries, and they snatched you up, took you someplace, and killed you. No one else got hurt. And they did things for the community. Look at Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy Johnson's buying apartment buildings and putting people up that can't afford to get housing because white folks won't rent to them or charge them too much. He's buying property. I don't see Trig and them doing anything like that. Trig could have went and got his own boy an apartment. He didn't even do that. He brought him in his house without asking his girl. There's a couple of rules you should never do. Never let another grown-ass man in your house, period. You can stay the night if you're visiting, but you don't get to live in my house. I will get you an apartment. I will go out there and put a down payment or get you a deposit so you can have your own place to live because grown-ass men need their own place to live. But he couldn't even do that. I mean, the representations they show of us on this show are garbage. They're so disgraceful. Lena Waithe, you need to be ashamed of yourself. If you're watching, fix it. Fix it. It's your responsibility. You are executive producer. You are responsible for the images that are on this show. Fix it.
I agree with you that you're making my point, though, that maybe what they're trying to do with Trig being basically the enforcement arm of the community strength, being the new police, that's them trying to show that he's trying to do something for the community and could be a pivoting point.
Yeah, and I think that most people, everybody has a story. And if you want somebody that's going to be leading you, in general, you want somebody that can identify with your struggles. It's always terrible when you have community leaders or politicians that just do anything with the community because they don't understand the struggles. And so I think that what it's shaping up to be is that you have leaders that come from your community that can identify with your struggles, that understand, like, if I do X, Y, and Z, then it's going to have this effect. And so just understanding how all those things play together, I think it comes best from somebody who knows your struggle. Which what it seems like is what I mean, probably why they're even supporting Otis in the first place is because they know he comes from the community, he has certain ties and he understands, but at the same time, I mean, he's the still involved in the shady stuff, so it's like it's a trade-off.
Yeah, but there's also an
I guess that's probably why I can't relate to him then, because I'm not a sexually confused murderous sociopath.
You gotta think too, though, that this is supposed to be a representation of some of the things that go on in Chicago. Right. And we know that Chicago has had a reputation for a while. And I think that it's just, like I said, trying to show the duality of the people there. Like, sure, a lot of, things go on there. They're always in the headlines for criminals and murders and stuff like that. But I think the show is trying to humanize these people and let you know that everybody has a story and some of the reasoning behind why certain things go down. I think that's what the show is trying to portray.
But we constantly also that there's an overstretch because and since we're talking about it, this defunding the police or getting rid of the police, I don't know if anyone wants to actually get rid of the police. We want police to have the same amount of responsibility as they have with being able to go out and do whatever they want. You got to have some responsibility.
You want them to have accountability.
That's what I meant. You have to have accountability, and you have to have, and it has to be equal. And this immunity that they seem to carry is the problem, because I guarantee you, if there wasn't that immunity that they had to go out and do whatever they want to Black folks, if that didn't exist, they wouldn't do it. So, and this is what we're really talking about. You can't get rid of the police. I mean, look at what Trig and his bodyguard did, trying to result with this domestic. His bodyguard had to step in and pull a gun at the guy. Okay, so now that you've done that, Now what are you going to do? If you have to arrest somebody in your neighborhood, where are you going to put them? You can't just, talking isn't going to be, you can't just talk to everybody.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but in the show, it wasn't the communities it wasn't their decision to say remove the cops. The word defund meant take this money and use it elsewhere.
Yeah, reallocate it instead of sending cops for mental health calls.
In the episode, it was the police's decision to say we're not doing this. So that's why I just wanted to make the clarification. I mean, of course, the community doesn't want the police in their neighborhoods terrorizing them, but they never said abolish the police. The police made that decision.
They sure did make that call.
I don't mean
exactly. The police threw a little tantrum. They acted like a kid who was mad. It's like, oh, okay, I'm taking my ball and going home. Blah,
That's
blah,
what they
blah.
did.
That's what they did.
And which is why I said in the very beginning, if you want to force the damn hand of the police, start going over to the rich white people neighborhood and see how long they stay gone. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just bag on truth.
And here's the thing: when you talk about qualified immunity does apply in all situations in theory, but it really only matters when it comes to Black folks. Because I can tell you right now, if you take a cop and you send him over to Bel Air, or you send him to some fancy neighborhood over there in whatever Chicago's rich neighborhood is, and you let him kick in the door or beat up a little white kid on the way home from school, I can tell you right now, it doesn't matter how much qualified immunity they think they have, that cop is getting sued. They're probably going to lose their job, and they're probably going to be held financially responsible, and the city's going to get sued too because they beat up the wrong white kid. But for Black kids, they throw out qualified immunity and say, "Oh no, the city and the officer are covered." Sorry.
And actually, Larry, that actually did exist. Remember the black cop? It was a white cop, black cop that rolled up in this alley. There was a white woman in the alley. The black cop shot this woman, not realizing who she was, or suspecting she's somebody else. He shoots her. This boy is in jail now for a very long time.
Yeah.
So
he shot a white woman.
I absolutely agree with you that qualified immunity is only indicative when it comes to how white people or how white police officers treat young Black kids. And I agree with that. But that's why I say, you got to get rid of qualified immunity. You got to get rid of that, because no one man should have the kind of autonomy over another without grave accountability. And when you give a man,
I'll tell you what I believe. We need to get rid of every single cop in this country and make them get their jobs back. And here's my reasons why. There's no way, as much as these cops talk about, you don't know what it's like to work on these streets. It's a war zone. We're out there day in and day out. There's no way that you can work in war zones day in and day out for 20 plus years. When soldiers go to war, they go to war and they have tours that last for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, maybe a year and a half, some of them. If you're special forces, you jump in and out for 2-3 months at a time. But they come back with all kinds of PTSD. Some of them are never okay again. You can't expect you're going to have people in a war zone, as they describe it, for 20, 25, 30 years, and they're not suffering PTSD. First of all, these people need to have continuous psychological treatment as a requirement to maintain their job. And because we know there's so many cops out there that are crooked and corrupt, it is systematic. It is not the bad apple theory anymore. And we know that every cop out there has seen it and did nothing about it. And therefore they are culpable too. So they should all lose their jobs and be forced to be hired back. And that way you can get rid of some of the bad ones. Some of them will slip back in, but you can get rid of some of the bad ones and keep whatever, if there are any good ones, maybe the ones that want to be good, but they're scared. Maybe you can bring them back in. Maybe you just have to find new people altogether. But you need to get rid of those people.
But to your point, the average police officer never draws his gun. So it can't be that big of a war zone out there.
Well, no, but here's the problem is, they may not draw their gun, but the other ones that are constantly drawing their gun and beating people, those ones that are never drawing their guns, that are supposed to be the good cops, they're not saying anything.
Well, they're
not saying anything because they're afraid. I have a number of friends that are cops. My dad was a cop for 33 years. And they say, oh, well, if you don't have their back, when you have to make a call and you have to chase someone down a dark alley, you'll be going down that dark alley alone because no one will have your back. That should not exist in any agency.
No, I agree. That blue wall of silence has to come down. So it's
And I
interesting.
think, well,
No,
go ahead, Ron.
Well, I just started to say it's interesting how the Chi is bringing all of these elements into fashion, except that I think with what you were saying, Larry, it's just how they're depicting us as Black people, and we just keep seeing these shows that does this over and over and over again. But I respect the fact that they are bringing it to our attention. But like you said earlier,
It's
hurtful
a
because it's all people making it.
What I will say about it is, and I'm not going to say I'm trying to speak for every Black family, but if that is the reality or of the situation that's going on in Chicago, then that's another story. Because I haven't been to Chicago. I don't know what their daily lives are like. But if their communities are in ruin to the point where the Black family structure has been broken down that bad, if the community and the policing is that bad, and that's what this show is bringing light to, then that's another story, because it's actually sparking conversation. As you see here, we're having this big discussion. And so that's what I think, because I'm not from Chicago. I can't say I've lived that experience. And so I get where it's like, I get where it's a touchy subject, because you don't want people to say, okay, that's what's on TV, so that applies to all Black people. And that applies to me, and that applies to my situation. I see a drug dealer on TV, I'm gonna try to do the same thing. Like, I see where it's touchy there because of the imagery that's being put forth. But if it's the truth, and if it's something that is gonna cause us to have a larger conversation, then I don't mind it, honestly, because look at what we're doing here. We're talking about planning, we're talking about solutions. And that's stuff that I think that ultimately good programming should do. If you're watching something,
it should spark debate.
It should spark conversation. It should get you thinking, versus just strictly watching it for entertainment value.
Well, if you've been to Southeast, you've been to Chicago. So I mean,
no,
basically,
that's not so.
No, what I'm saying is
that is not so.
You know, I grew up in Southeast, and it is, and I can tell you there were some areas in Southeast that would be just as bad as Chicago. I mean, and my point being is, yes, in every metropolis, you're going to have these kinds of problems. The real question is, how do we fix it? You can't keep going from one extreme to the other and calling it a fix. It is not. It is an extreme to talk about getting rid of the police. It is also likely too much of an extreme to talk about you going out policing your own community.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Lena Waithe could have taken advantage of writing in a viable solution on the show that could have been modeled, and we could have came back and said, you know what? That could have worked. You know, like Larry said earlier, not like Larry and Tiff said, the police are the ones who pulled the parachute and jumped out. He initially was planning to take those funds and do something else with it. But I guess his plan to take those funds and do something else with it was to fortify his relationship with Tracy, because he's giving her the $5 million to spend on her organization to do something about the policing, which is the wrong way to portray that if we're talking about using a story to facilitate what could represent a good plan.
I see your point there too. And I do get it. Yeah, I agree with that. You know, certain things could be written in, because like as a writer and a storyteller, you do have the freedom to write your own ending. And who's to say that still might not be the case? I mean,
that's great to say. That may be coming.
Yeah, it could be. So I still have my eyes open for that. But I just think that overall what I've learned watching The Chi is to not prejudge people in their situation, especially when I look at somebody like Keisha's character, because she's easy to judge. You could look at her and say, oh, she had such a bright future ahead of her and she went out here and got pregnant, but you don't know her story. And so it's like, it's very easy to prejudge a situation, and that's what I'm picking up from this story. And even Chicago in general, it's very easy to prejudge Chicago.
Of course.
Be like, oh, well, it's just a bunch of N-words out there ripping and running, tearing up their own communities, you know, not building up their families, not educating themselves. They're just doing their running wild. But in reality, if you look at the situation, all of those people have a story, and it's a community of, I feel like, generational issues that have prevented them from breaking loose from that. So that's why I try not to be so hard on the show because I do realize that Chicago is a place that has a unique set of circumstances.
Well, I'm going to be hard on the show because I recognize that when you are a storyteller, whether it be in movies or TV shows or writing books or articles, whatever, that it is a very powerful medium and people take a lot of their social cues from it. And I have looked at Lena Waithe and I wanted to support her from the beginning. And I have now recognized that Lena Waithe is far less of a filmmaker and more of a propagandist.
Oh, don't say that.
And that's the way I look. And I don't want to have to see her that way.
Don't say that.
I don't see that. I see it.
I see it in
I see what
all of her work. She is more of a propagandist than she is. She knows, but see, in order to be a good propagandist, you have to be able to tell a good story and keep people's attention so that you can get your message out there. But she's still a propagandist.
You make it sound like she's Donald Trump.
Yeah, but what is she propaganda? But what is
I don't want to say she's Donald Trump. I'm not trying to put that on her, but she definitely has an agenda.
But what is she propagandizing? But what is she what is she propagandizing? I mean, when you say she's a because I agree. I mean, look, she's a
I'll tell you what it is. In all of her work that I see, and I don't have a problem with one end of her propaganda. She has one end of her propaganda that's very much promoting the LGBT community and specifically, lesbian women, specifically butch lesbian women. I have no problem with that. That's her life, her experience. But she often does it at the expense of Black men and straight Black women. And I have a problem with that because this idea of with gay people saying, oh, I was born this way. It's not a lifestyle. It's not a choice. This is how I am. Well, guess what? It is the same way for everyone else. I was born this way. I was born a Black male. I was born a straight Black male. That is just me and who I am as I was born. I'm tired of her basically trying to put her message forward while crapping on me for no reason. If you want to be respected because of the way you were born, then stop disrespecting me and other people for the way we were born. You can, if your only way to push yourself up is to push us down, I have no interest in you.
I mean, I hear you. I don't know if that was the intent. Of course. And I don't know if that's the intention. And I can't speak for her, obviously, but I really don't think that's the intention. And
I hope it's, I don't want to say I hope it's her intention, but if it's not her intention, then she's reckless and even more dangerous because she's reckless. And if it's her intentions, at least she's doing it and she knows what she's doing, which affords her the opportunity to correct it.
So I got to bounce right now, and I've enjoyed this opportunity. We had to make this happen again. Yes. Definitely when Godfather Harlem comes back on.
Definitely.
Most
look, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Oh,
We're
no
gonna
problem.
keep it rolling though. Thank you.
All right, see y'all.
All right.
See you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, but Larry, I definitely appreciate your views, and obviously you're entitled to your opinion, of course. And I do agree that she does have things that she likes to talk about, and it comes from her own experience. I mean,
yeah, if you're a writer, you're writing from your lens. You have a lens.
And I don't know necessarily if the way that Black men are portrayed have come from her experiences or if it's just written that way. That's something I can't speak for, but I really don't think that it was done with bad intentions.
No, I don't believe that at all. But you think that
I think
how the Black men on the show are portrayed is crapping on you though?
Let me ask you on the show, what positive male figure is on this show?
Well, I think that everybody is flawed.
We have the pastor who would be considered positive. Papa would be considered positive, but their roles are very narrow. And
Papa's not a man; he's a boy.
Well, yeah.
He's a boy.
His dad. But we don't see much of his father. And in some ways,
his dad's a criminal now. She destroyed him.
Well, what we see a lot of times in the LGBT community is as they push so forward to be respected and accepted, that I think what you see is what you're saying with Lena is that she's pushing so hard for them to be uplifted that they're pushing us down at the same time. And that's what you see in the imagery of the Chi with these no good Black men. And then even when you have a Black man that's trying to do better, and I think like Ronnie was trying to get himself together, and then what happened?
I think Emmett is trying to do better.
And
Emmett
is
is an entrepreneur.
Emmett is also exactly.
Now,
No,
the situation that happened with he and Dom happened before he was married.
Yeah,
he's married now. He decided to come clean because he wanted to have a clean slate with Tiff and stuff. So Emmett is somebody who's trying.
Right. So every time, and this is what I've said before, anytime there is a Black man on this show who either is good or starts to get good, she kills him off or destroys him. You had Papa's father, who was a good dude. She had to destroy him. Ronnie, people say Ronnie was a good dude. Ronnie was a homeless bum, drunk, living under a bridge. He did do something good by saving Keisha, but then he went around and got, after he had a sort of his redemption path was played out, they killed him. And then you have Emmett. Emmett's trying to get good, and what happens with Emmett? Now his marriage is destroyed. It's like what she's saying is, if you are straight, you are a Black person, I'm going to destroy you on my show.
But if you look at the homosexual characters in the show, Imani has a past. She actually murdered her father, I believe, if I remember correctly. Trig has been in and out of jail, and he's a drug dealer. I mean, it's not like they're too much better, honestly.
No,
they're not. But they're constantly,
everybody is flawed.
Well, no,
they
he's
do,
not
but
talking about flaws.
they go through all kinds of gymnastics to try and make those two characters look really good.
Right. He's not talking about their flaws. He's talking about the destruction of these men. And so, yeah, I get it. And as I honestly, I didn't look at it from that lens, through that lens when I'm watching the show, but I do hear and understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think that's fine too. I mean, it's okay to have your opinions, and I definitely respect them too. But I also want to make sure that as we are, I don't like to necessarily feel like it's an attack. Like, and I know I'm not saying that you're trying to attack, but I don't want it to come off that way because you're just stating your opinion. I don't think it's an attack, but I do want us to be able to like have constructive criticism of these things, and I think that there's a place for that.
And not only that, Black people aren't monolithic. I mean, I think she has a right to express herself as in any other show. What we need are more Black produced television shows.
Right.
And so that we can start seeing some of the reality of Black folks. Look at all of us. None of us represent what we see on TV on a daily basis, but we have to, television producers have to understand that there are just as many of us that want to see Blacks portrayed in the realm of how we are really in real life. And, they believe that they got to portray us the way they do in order for it to be entertaining. And that's just isn't true. I'm still waiting for a Bill Cosby show to come back. When will that ever happen? So, and Bill Cosby was watched. I can recall, I couldn't wait to get home to watch Bill Cosby. We have that show in a way. We have that in Blackish in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah. I mean, Blackish is the Cosby Show for this generation, I think, because you have representations of strong Black men, strong Black women, families, kids, all of that. And I'm trying to think through it. I'm not sure if they have any LGBT representation on that show. I don't think there is. And maybe they'll write it in before they go off the air. I don't know. But I mean, as far as having, good Black representation, that show's doing it. And I think they do it better than the Cosby Show in a lot of ways, because the Cosby Show was very, very just after school special. Like, everybody was wonderful. They had issues, but everybody was so wonderful and so perfect. And it's not like that on Blackish. Sometimes you look at what's his name, Dre's character. He says stuff that parents are not supposed to say, like, yeah, she's my favorite. Parents are, you're never supposed to say that. He says it all the time.
But
I definitely hear you too. But I think about the shot too, and I think that's what the younger characters really represent. Like, that's the hopefulness in this show. Those younger characters, they are portrayed in kind of like their essence and in their pureness, especially in past seasons, because because they still had their innocence. But now we see as they're moving into their teenage years, they're starting to have a little bit more personal conflicts and things like that. And so, and when we talk, like, I really like Gemma's character too, because she is the personification of, you know, that the educated Black woman, you know, pursuing social justice issues and
Very
things like that. A very progressive and well spoken and smart, and also
now, you know what?
even as she was doing her own show.
Be careful. Be careful. Because
You have
now,
an issue with Gemma.
Have your hair.
You're actually- you're giving Larry a lot of ammunition to what he said. Because look at what Gemma,
Because I want to say that, like,
look at what Gemma is doing to Jake and Kevin. So you gotta be careful.
Yes.
So don't.
She is destroying a friendship.
Listen, isn't Jake his boy? Like, where's the responsibility? Where's the accountability with Jake?
There is some accountability there. I'm not saying
it's
that.
always that's the
No.
But who's pulling the trigger?
It was about Tiff and Emmett.
Tiffany, who's pulling the trigger? Gemma is pulling the trigger, not Jake. So
yes,
Jake has a responsibility.
Her responsibility.
Look at her little slick moves. Ooh, tell us what happened, Jake. Come on,
but
man.
who did Gemma go to first? And who
did go to Kevin? She gave Kevin an outlet. Kevin took his outlet. He did a write-up. He wrote his essay.
Just because
that was his outlet. Jake didn't want to take it. She gave him the opportunity.
Right, but that's not Kevin Stilo. He doesn't want to go on the show and do that type of stuff. So just because Kevin doesn't mean you have to go start flirting with Jake and go and touching on. My wife never wants to be on my YouTube channel. Doesn't mean I'm gonna go grab some other woman and start flirting with her because I bring her on my channel. I can just bring her on the channel. I have to go and flirt with her and start making out with her. I mean, come on now.
What did she say?
You know what?
The show started. Wait a minute.
Kevin stopped taking her calls.
What did she say before the show started? Oh, you wearing cologne?
Yes. Gemma is not stupid. You know what? Do any of you watch that show, The Irregulars?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's on there.
Well, there's a phrase they used in that show for rich people who go hang out with people who are not. That were sort of poor and live in the hood. They call them dabblers. And she's a dabbler. She wanted Kev because she thought Kev was this bad boy who lived on the South Side, who was gonna be her little thug dude that she can have fun with. And then she realized, oh snap, Kev is more like my dad than he is like the thug that I want.
Kevin was never a thug though.
Right.
Kevin was really never a thug.
Exactly, but she thought that he was gonna be that bad boy because he came off as sort of this rough dude from the South Side. And then she realized that's not him. And so now she's looking for her next bad boy.
I think she
didn't want the bad boy. She thought
Black man at that school.
No,
she's a dabbler. She's gonna marry a Black dude at Yale that went to Exeter. And she's gonna tell her stories of when she used to date these two little bad boys from when she was in high school.
No, you know what's happening?
Kevin
shut her out.
She likes to play with clay. She likes to mold things. And this is what she's doing. She tried to mold Kevin. That didn't work. And now she wants to mold Jake. So this is what she's doing.
First off, she and Jake are kind of on the same side. That's what happened was when Kevin.
Oh, you know what's some BS coming when someone starts to sing with what happened was.
That's what Black folks do. Anyway, for real though. Kevin cut her off. Kevin stopped taking the calls. They were on opposing sides of the issue when Jake was harassed by the police. So right now, she does have more in common with Jake than she does with Kevin. They are not on the same page.
So what we're saying is we should hold the white police officer responsible for their breakup too.
I'm just saying, right now, I think she wants somebody who's like-minded. She said to Kevin one time, she was like, I want to have someone that I can have an intellectual debate with.
Maybe she
Kevin said, I don't want to debate. Now I know that can be tiresome to some.
But maybe it's
they
also
don't always going to debate.
But maybe it's also time for her to sit down with Kevin. If they are in a relationship, maybe it's time to say, hey.
Well, it could have been if Kevin was taking her calls. Remember, Kevin was declining her calls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he was.
Go back and look at a couple episodes, and she was calling, and see that he was sending her to voicemail. So she was trying to have a conversation with
Tiffany, remember, women have to understand that men, we're not, as I've said, you all have 4 lanes and lines of communication. These lanes, like a highway.
Men make
And
excuses for other men.
No,
That's what I'm hearing.
no. It's just the way you have to respond to a man that is different from a woman. And women tend to want.
So she's supposed to keep running behind him when he.
No. But
home?
you don't jump at him. You can't jump at him and expect him to make any changes. You know, it's like what I see with my wife and my kids. I got 2 boys, and sometimes, even though our message, hers and mine, you know, our message may have the same tonality, but it's the way it's delivered. You know, whether she wants to go in, bam, 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 and I'm like, you got a nearly 21-year-old man here. I go at him from a man to man. I'm like, just happened today. I'm like, you are almost 21 years old. This is what I respect. Even though you're in school, you got to get a job. You want your car, pay for it. I'm tired of being in the bank. You got to go get yourself a job, pay for your schooling. I don't give you a curfew. You just got to respect the time. There are rules in this house. The rule is you don't come in this house after 2 o'clock. Now, if you after 2 o'clock can't make it in, sleep in your car, sleep where you are. I don't care. But you're a grown man now, and I'm going to treat you like a man.
Well, I do agree with you on the communication differences. Yeah, there's definitely a way that men communicate versus the way women communicate. But I think what's important to remember is that they're still teenagers and they're still learning the ropes here. Okay. And so with Gemma and being a little flirty here and there, like, of course she had her feelings for Kevin, but Kevin is changing right before her eyes. And it seems like it's nothing that she can really do about it. And so I think, even as I remember back on my own adolescence, when you start to grow apart from a person, how do you learning how to deal with that as a teenager? How do you break it off respectfully? How can you keep it amicable? But
you don't go to his best friend.
More in common with his best friend.
Mm-hmm. You don't go to his best friend.
That's a conversation.
You don't go to his best friend. You do not.
But sometimes you can't help who you have stuff in common with. And so that's a conversation that needs to be had.
That's okay now.
We're going to talk about being mature.
Let me get my hot take on this one.
But when I was saying that, you said it's the girl code. So
you guys can
invent
the girl code. This is exactly what the girl code is all about.
The bro code is.
Go ahead, Larry.
So here's the thing, right? Kevin, she really what the part of the issue is, she wants to be able to control the person that she's with.
I agree with that.
She wants to be able to control them, and she doesn't like the fact that she can't control Kevin, because Kevin is very open with her in his times, in his way. Because if we remember the scene where this started off, Kevin was walking down the hallway and had given her the essay that he had just written about how he felt. Yeah. This teacher asked him to write an essay about how he felt. Jake didn't do that. Kevin did that, and he allowed her to read his feelings.
And she said it was good.
And she said, this is really good. And then she wanted to go and exploit his feelings for her own game by putting him on the show. And when he said no, she got all upset and said, fine, then I'll go get Jake. She didn't say that, but that's what she did. She wanted to control him. He said, no, I'm giving myself to you. But it's not enough unless he gives her to him in the exact way that she wants it. And that's a problem.
She absolutely does have control issues when it comes down to how she wants to shape people to do what she wants. Although I think that she definitely exploited their situation. I will be clear with that. But I think she had a good reason behind it because of where they go to school. And those students that attend their school, they don't see from the same lens. And so she's trying to get them to see, like, okay, these are Black students that you're going to school with each day, and you might overlook them. You might not even notice them at all. But this is their experience. So when you see us, don't see us as the criminal. Don't see me for what I am. You heard Jake talking about his aspirations and how he wanted to do better, and he had all of these dreams. I think the point of that was to get the other students in that school to see from our perspective and see us how we want to see.
And she was right in doing so. I mean, I didn't have a problem.
But I do agree she exploited it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
But the problem is with that too, is that and honestly, in this moment, I looked at this and I thought, oh, okay, maybe Jake and her are of like mind, and maybe Jake is just weak and she recognizes that, and that's why she's going after him now. because Kev stands firm. He says, no, I don't want to do this. And so therefore I am not going to do this. And she doesn't know how to handle that. She doesn't know how to handle a strong man. She's so used to being able to manipulate and get what she wants that she doesn't know how to deal with a strong person who simply says, when I don't want to do something, I don't do it. And I respect you. When you say you don't want to do something, I'm going to respect you and not force you to do it. She doesn't understand how to engage in a relationship like that. And so she needs somebody who's weak that
let your no be.
She can manipulate and she's gonna find that Jake will
tell no, like he told
yes.
Anytime you see a dude, anytime you see a dude talking about, I don't care about them bees, them bees ain't this, them bees ain't, that's a weak dude that's putting up a whole bunch of bravado and he's gonna get pee-whipped just like the rest of them do. And they act like that because they got their feelings hurt before because they put themselves out there, got butt hurt, and now they're up there they're too weak to actually deal with their own feelings inside. So they put out all that bravado.
Agreed.
That's true. That's true.
Look,
I agree with that.
Look, let your no be your no and your yes be your yes. And that's what I like about Kevin. When Kevin says no, it's no. And you know, Jake said no.
And Kevin's open.
Yeah, he is open, but he has convictions.
Kevin also doesn't want to deal with the situation because you can tell when he was watching the video, he didn't want Maisha to film it in the first place. He didn't. He went ahead and wrote about it, but he only wrote about it because he wanted to hurry up and get out of detention. Then when they showed the video in class, Kevin was like,
I think he
he does not want to deal with it anyway.
He doesn't want to relive his trauma.
Or he saw Jake.
Right.
He doesn't want to deal with it. He doesn't want to relive his trauma.
Right.
And I can respect that.
And she has to respect that because he has to come out of it his way. He can't do it Gemma's way. And Gemma wants them to come out of it her way. And that's what's clogging this relationship up. Mm-hmm. So, you know, sorry about it. But
she doesn't deserve Kevin. She doesn't deserve Kevin. She's not, you know, they made it seem like, oh, was Kevin good enough to be with her? Because here she is, she's this rich, well-to-do private school girl that seems like she's got her stuff all together.
No, Kevin is a good kid. I always thought
she doesn't deserve him. She's not good enough for Kevin.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think that Gemma needs a challenge because, like you said, she is privileged and she does come from a well-to-do family. And I don't think that anybody has really, I don't think she's ever met her match. And I think that Kevin is her match and saying, like, I'm going to challenge you. I'm not going to do exactly what you want to do. And so, like, I'm seeing that that can be an issue when somebody goes unchecked for so long and then they finally do meet their match. Maybe they act out. I don't know. Maybe Gemma actually going forward with Jake is her acting out. You know, if you've seen the previews for next week, it looks like her and Jake are running off, skipping school somewhere. So I'm like, you know, maybe that's her, you know, rebelling against the situation. Even though Kevin did call her back at the end of this episode, I think that was him trying to make the reach.
But it's
so I was like, I don't know.
Nothing, but Gemma has nothing to rebel against. I mean, you know, Gemma feels the way she feels. Kevin feels the way he feels, and that has to be respected. You know, so and I think that's where what we're seeing with Gemma. She doesn't respect Kevin's his wishes.
Well, I see a lot of the same stuff in Emmett too, because he didn't want to respect, you know, the situation when Tiff came to him with the open marriage idea. It's almost
he didn't want to respect that.
He's like, I don't want that. I don't
want to respect. There's no respect in to be had with that.
Yeah, there's no.
You got married with certain preconditions, and now you're talking about taking that and destroying it. They didn't get married and say, okay, let's get married and have an open marriage. Right. No, they got married and said that they were going to forsake all others, and now she got mad and destroyed their marriage because she says he cheated. They had sex. People can say you cheat when you're dating someone else and you have sex with someone else. You can look at it like that, but in all honesty, there's really no cheating until you get married because there's no consequences really until after you get married.
Yeah.
Because you can just simply say this person did something I didn't like, and so I'm walking away. When you're married, there's child support, there's community property, there's God, there's all kinds of stuff in there. And what she did was she not only tried to inflict pain on him, but she defiled their marriage.
She did.
Tiffany made
but
that
this
point
is where
last week.
Tiffany ain't
the
shit.
onus is on him too, because
Tiffany.
when he should have told her that happened before the marriage. Like that's where the communication thing, like you said, they didn't know how to communicate. He should have communicated
Yeah,
that.
she got mad and ran out. He didn't get a chance. As soon as he told her, she got mad and ran out the house.
He could have said that. He could have said that. He said, I am dumb and stuff. And then she ran out. He could have
so when did he get a chance?
He could have qualified that by saying, but this happened before we even got married.
Yeah, well,
And I think that was the conversation we had.
That should have been the premise of his conversation.
Yeah.
Not the qualifying part of his conversation. That should have been the premise of his conversation.
I'll tell you this.
I'm telling you this. This happened before we got married. I'm trying to do blah, blah, blah. This is what happened. So that should have been the conversation. Not, hey, look, I just screwed so-and-so. No. His conversation should have been with her. This is what
I'm not
married. And
I'm not going to tell Tiff. I'm not going to say that Tiff is okay for doing what she did because he did, or give her any kind of pass. Because in those moments when someone tells you something like that, is not the time to run off and go sleep with the first D that you find or the one that you've been waiting to get at. That's those times where you sit quietly for a moment and say, I need to either listen to this person or I need to sit quietly and listen to myself. I don't need to react and go do something that may damage me or him or both of us permanently. And that's exactly what she did. And the reality of it is, and this may sound jacked up, I don't think Emmett should have ever told her. It happened before they got married. It happened before they got married, and what he should have done is just simply said, I have to learn how to deal with this. I have to learn how to live with this guilt until this guilt subsides, because he didn't cheat in their marriage. When he got married, he's been faithful. And people have said time and time again to men, go out there and soil your royal oats before you get married so that you don't ruin your marriage. And maybe he did that to excess, but he did it. And he's been
what I do say is I agree that the marriage situation definitely complicates it, because Tiffany absolutely soiled the marriage. I do agree with that. But what was interesting to me was his conversation with Keisha when he was stressing about, her and possibly leaving him. And I think Keisha made a very good point in helping Emmett to realize that you don't always get things your way, and you can't force people to react the way you want them to. And she basically said, you can't sin constantly and then question why you didn't get into heaven. And I think that's like, Emmett has a little bit of entitlement there, where it's like, I messed up a million times, but I can't deal with it when you screw up once.
No,
so
he didn't.
Because
because I've said before, this has to do with how she screwed up. She screwed up in their marriage, and she screwed up with the intent to hurt him.
Agree.
He never screwed up. He never went out there and said, I'm mad at her, I'm going to go hurt her feelings and screw some chick. He just went out there on some selfishness and maybe got caught up.
Which has the same effect.
But I'm not saying the right and wrong of the situation at all. Tiffany was wrong. Absolutely. Emmett was wrong in the past. I'm not trying to argue that. My point is his mindset. It's because sometimes a lot of people can dish it, but they can't take it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens. And especially with men.
No, it's not the same. You can't.
Y'all can't take that.
No,
you can't make the comparison to what happens when you're boyfriend and girlfriend to what happens inside of a marriage. There is no comparison. Let me ask you this. And this is the other thing too. When we talk about
you agree, but you.
No, I'm not saying
I agree that you.
Okay.
And I agree with his.
Let's agree.
When you're married and stuff. However, a lot of times there are double standards with men, and the forgiveness. There's not a lot of forgiveness for women if they step out and everything, as opposed to men. Like, men want all the forgiveness in the world, and I've said this before on here.
Some men don't want forgiveness.
They want all the forgiveness, and that's speaking to Tiara's point about Emmett, about the entitlement.
Those men that don't.
And my other point about Emmett, though,
don't care. Men that step out and step out constantly, they don't care. They could care less whether they get forgiveness or not.
And
I think
Emmett has done that to Tiff in the
Well, what I'm
past.
saying-
Here's
but
another reason.
he did not step out on Tiffany with the intent to hurt. And here's the thing with Tiffany. The fact that Tiffany went straight to
Lord have
Dante.
mercy.
Hold up now.
What
Hold
you
up.
think he was gonna
Hold
do
up.
wrong?
Let me finish. The
But it
fact
hurt her
that,
anyway. Oh,
the
that
fact
made
that
that wasn't
Tiffany
my
went
intent.
straight
But
to
it hurt her
Dante
anyway.
tells me that that was in her mind anyway. Now, you know, because at
I
some
agree.
Right.
because she could have stopped and said, okay, then what am I going to do? But she knew exactly who she was going to go to, and she did. So,
Yes, I
so
agree.
it was already in her
She could have
mind.
been like, F this Negro, I'm going to my mom's house. She didn't. She went
Exactly.
straight to this dude's house and jumped in his bed.
And was
Yeah, but
already,
I think-
so she was already making love to Dante before the love even started. She was already screwing Dante before the two physically had any kind of connection, because she knew exactly where she
what the
was
Bible
going to
say?
go.
If you lust in your heart, you have already committed
You
adultery.
already committed
I
adultery.
agree.
That's
You
true.
know?
I'm not arguing none of that. I think my biggest issue with Emmett, though, is that it seems almost as if he would, like, when he proposed to Tiffany and he asked her to marry him, it wasn't like he proposed and he did it and pursued the marriage out of the love and heartfelt feelings that he had. It was out of his guilt. He was like, I screwed up so much. Let me try to do something to make this right. I'm going to marry her. So
Did he
I think
say
this
that?
was the
It's the
intention
only
upon
good
which
thing
the
that I
marriage.
think-
Did he say that? Did he say
started.
that?
And so now he's saying, okay, even though I married you, I screwed Dom, and it was before our marriage. So
You put-
therefore, when we got married, it should have been a big reset button. Like,
You
no,
put-
it don't work like that. Just
you
because
put
you
words
did
in
something
Emmett's
prior to
mouth.
your marriage does not negate the
Emmett-
wrongfulness of it.
Emmett never said.
Here's this. But hold on.
And I'm
Here's
not
one-
saying
here's
that's
a
what he
reason
said,
why-
but that's what his actions are saying.
Here's a reason why I know that Tiffany said that women often get the short end of the stick when it comes to cheating. They don't get the same forgiveness that men get. And there's a couple reasons why. One, men don't get pregnant. We don't. We may spread our seed, but we don't get pregnant. We are not going to have something grow inside of us that's going to be at home with us. That we don't have that issue. And so that's one issue. But the other part too is men, for whatever reason, whether it's genetics or social, whatever, we generally can have sex and be completely emotionless. We can
My
go
son
have
and I
sex
was
with
talking
some
about that
random
earlier
chick.
today.
We can have sex with 15 different women and not even think about them later ever again. Where women, you see what happened with Tiff. She went up there and now she's so caught up with this dude. She's going and asking her husband if they can have an open relationship so she can continue to sleep with this dude because she's so caught up with him.
And we
And
do
I
have.
don't have
And
that
I
issue.
don't think
sprung on the
she's
D.
caught up with him emotionally.
She is sprung on the D.
Yeah, I think she is, and I think
She
he's-
is.
You know, there is that
Nah.
difference with emotion. You know, because you know when
Come on, you don't go to your husband and ask him, can I ask him for permission to sleep with another man because you're not?
Remember,
You are
she
so
had a
strong on this dude
conversation
that
with
you're,
two
that
guys.
You're doing reckless behavior, asking your husband, can you sleep with this man and have with his permission? That's craziness.
Remember, she had a conversation with two other people that put that in her head. No.
They didn't put it in her head. She was
They
the one
didn't put
asking
that
the
seed in their
That's
head.
when
They
it's
just told him, they gave her the terminology.
Right, exactly.
That's all they gave her was a terminology.
That
She
thing
knew
was
it.
already brewing in her head, and she
They gave her a way to articulate her feelings.
exactly.
Well, I don't see this going well. It looks like next week in the previews, they are continuing down the bad path. Emmett is obviously messing around with some other chick with bad perfume that Tiff is not feeling. And so it seems like Emmett is like, you said you wanted this open marriage, but now you throwing all
The
the
ground
rules
rules.
on top
Yeah,
of it.
that's how that.
So
I think
it's
they're
like, it's
gonna end
already
up.
doomed.
It's not
It's
gonna work
doomed.
out as far as their little open marriage, and they're gonna end up coming back together.
I don't think so. I'll tell you the one good thing I think that's going to come out of Tiff's trifling ass breaking down their marriage is that I think Emmett's going to finally be able to end up with his true love, who he should have been with in the
Who,
beginning.
Keisha?
Keisha. Because that woman is fine as all get the hell out of Sam Hill. Woo! My goodness.
I have prediction.
I want that to happen. Huh?
I do like their friendship.
Yeah.
No, I like them together. If I can't have her, then at least somebody should.
Oh,
You know?
Lord.
But
Oh, Lord.
Emmett was not ready for Keisha in the sense
was
that
not.
he was
Yeah,
just
but he's ready
to
now.
be dirty dogging all over the place. And Keisha is especially now in a super fragile state where I don't think she could deal with Emmett, tearing her down emotionally, doing whatever he was doing. So if it had to mean that, him and Tiff go through their thing and that makes him a better man, then
I think they're gonna end up back together. They're gonna figure out, find out this stuff is not working. And I do appreciate the fact that I thought that Tiff was gonna go to what's her name, Dom, and go off, but she handled it like a woman, because ultimately, Dom was wrong too. She handled
it like she got her piece. She know what she's doing. She got her piece with Dante, and that's why she's not mad at Dom.
I don't think so.
No,
she recognizes that
she recognizes
the responsibility is on the
with
man.
her husband. Yeah, exactly. You take it to your man first before you
definitely.
Check the chick.
I agree with that, but
and that's why I said she was acting like a grown woman. I mean, I know a lot of times.
Women would go off on that other chick in a minute. Okay, in a hot minute.
But you also don't know what your man been telling that other woman. For all she knows, Emmett could have been telling Dom that he was free as a dollar bill.
I think Keisha and Emmett are gonna get together, and Emmett's gonna adopt her baby, and they're gonna live happily ever after.
Well, I'll look forward to that prediction.
That's only gonna happen after.
I don't think it's that cut and dry.
That's only gonna happen if Lena Waithe leaves the show and we bring in a different showrunner, because she'll never let that happen. She'll never let a straight black male, straight black female have a happy ending.
Okay. Well, look, I think we are out of time.
Yeah, we definitely went a little over, but I enjoyed the conversation. I do appreciate your views and challenging us.
Yes,
different perspectives. I mean, this is real talk. This is what we do. So I wouldn't have it any other way. You're always
Larry, I think I need you a little more often, my brother, because
hey, I like the spot. Now I didn't blow up the spot, but I like the spot.
I feel so supported in this today.
Oh, you have no idea. It's so refreshing.
I know.
It's so refreshing to have to just to sit back and let somebody else do what I've been trying to do for so long on this show.
I know. It's all right. It's all right.
It's okay.
I feel you, man. It's hard to deal with these strong black women, boy. They will try and run over you. They will try and control you like Gemma.
Here we go. See?
Oh,
see how they trying to do it, Tiffany?
Be Kev, don't be Jake.
Yeah, exactly. I try to be, man. I try to be Kev all day long. But these two here, when they're gone, I'm done. I got to sit back and just sit back. I just go, okay.
You choose your battles.
Yeah, I have to choose them wisely. But I so appreciate you.
Yeah, you were really good today. See, when we did Snowfall, you weren't going off like that.
Snowfall, that's another one, boy. I love that show.
But anybody that can come and make Tiffany pause for the cause, you always welcome on this show.
Listen, I was just trying to listen and hear y'all out, because sometimes they're like, oh, y'all talking over each other, whatever. So I was just trying to hear y'all out.
I'll tell you, the thing is about this show that really gets me is that when you look at Lena Waithe and what she's done with the show, like you said, that it's bringing up topics that make us really want to have conversations. And this show is very entertaining in a lot of ways, but I really don't like the way that she represents black men in this show, and black women too, straight black women. She really seems to have pushed an agenda. I really wish she didn't do that. I wish that she would just be able to elevate her community without tearing out the rest of us, without tearing us down, because I think she does such a wonderful job of storytelling. The problem is she just represents us in such a negative light that she doesn't realize, and maybe she does realize that, but well, she does, because I think she's doing this as propaganda, that it influences the way people think about us, and it perpetuates those negative stereotypes that people have about us. And it does it in such a way that not only does it affect people outside of our community that are watching it, but it's affecting the young people that are inside the community that think this is the way that they should behave and the way that they should interact with other people. And I just don't like that. It's just, I mean, we look at poor Kev. Kev is up there in deep, deep pain. He's up there.
PTSD.
He's up there. He's been abused by the cops. He's up there. He's self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. And then his mom and his stepmom, who are supposed to be good people, they tell him stop self-medicating. And then they go to a Coolie High reunion. I mean, you should not do that. And it's like when you she's talking about before, like you're going to be on punishment. He makes some smart remark about, what are you going to do? you're not even going to be here. You know, my mom used to tell me later, I used to hate it when you put you on restriction because that meant I was on restriction. If my mom told me you can't leave the house for 2 weeks, she couldn't leave the house for 2 weeks. She would go to work. And then when she came home, she was stuck because she knew if she's not there, what's keeping me in the house, you know? So they're neglecting him, and they need to take care of this young man, and they're not. I lean away. If you ever watch this, fix it. You have the ability to fix it. Fix it.
She does.
These are your stories. These are your characters. This is your world. You created it. Now fix it.
Okay.
Well, I think on that note.
I don't know why you guys brought me on this show. You know how I do.
We appreciate your honesty, and like I said,
I seen your commentary with Godfather and Snowfall. I didn't know how you felt about the Shadow.
But look.
Oh man, the Shy has me all in my feelings about this stuff because there's so much stuff that it could be fantastic, and it's not. It's entertaining, but it's not fantastic.
But Larry, this is called the Spot Real Talk. And that's exactly what we just had today. Real talk. So you said nothing that I would, have any kind of conflict with, because you gave us your opinion and how you feel about the show. And that's what this format is all about.
No, I respect your opinion. I happen to like Lena though, so I don't appreciate the Lena slander.
Like too. I love Lena. I mean, she's helped us. She's been on the show. It's just that because we have to get over this idea that we can still love each other and support each other, and still have our differences and our opinion. Yeah. So that's okay. That's okay.
I like her. I respect her talent. I just don't always like what she does with it.
Yeah, and you have every right to feel that way.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Larry, for coming on today and joining us. And we want to send a thanks to Lamont as well, even though he had to dip out a little early. But we definitely appreciate you guys joining us. To all of our followers out there, be sure you go and check Larry and Lamont out on their platform. We'll tag them in our caption so that you guys know how to find them on YouTube. And you can go and check out their content as well. Did you have anything to add before we close out? Anything you want to promote or plug?
No, just come check my channel out. It's Today I Feel Like, all one word, just Today I Feel Like on YouTube. You can come check me out. I do tech. I do all kinds of good stuff. I tell people sometimes I do some cord cutting stuff, tell people how they can watch TV and movies and stuff for free. I do only the legal stuff. So I'm not one of those people out there telling you how you can get all the bootleg stuff. So I usually show folks how you can get all the goody good and keep it on the legal side. So, yeah, check me out. There are some good ways out there. It's not as easy as some of the other, other style. I don't even want to mention it, but there are ways to get the stuff out there. So come check out my channel. Come check me out. I live stream, me and Lamont live stream on his channel 3 days a week. If you're easily offended, definitely come so we can offend you. If you're not easily offended, come check it out so you can not be offended. And either way, just come check us out. So
definitely.
Okay. Well, yes, we appreciate it again. Thanks a lot. Everyone else, please drop down in the comments and let us know what you thought about this episode. Let us know what you thought about our conversation. Make sure you also like the video and click subscribe and the notification bell so that you get alerted every time we post. We are also at The Spot Real Talk on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So check us out there as well. Tiffany and Ron, y'all got anything before we close out?
I think enough said.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we're gonna call it a night. Thank you guys for watching.
All right.
I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me.